Story 1. The night had swallowed the city whole, and the road was as empty as my thoughts. My wife, Sarah, our 2 kids, Lily and Noah, and I were on our way home from a weekend visit to my parents. The timing was late, almost past midnight, but the gas light blinked on the dashboard, and I had to stop. I spotted a small, lonely gas station glowing weakly under flickering streetlights. Our minivan eased into the pump lane, and I told the family we'd be quick. But when we stepped into the tiny convenience store together, Sarah insisting she needed coffee and the kids wanted some snacks, the automatic glass doors slid shut behind us, locking without warning. I tugged at the handle. Nothing. The clerk behind the counter didn't say a word, his eyes glazed and emptier than the dark windows outside. He moved like a machine, jerky and slow, as if his strings were being pulled by some unseen puppeteer. His pale, unmoving face sent chills crawling up my spine. "Pump 4, I murmured, trying to keep calm. No answer. Curious, I glanced around the store. Shelves laden with stale snacks, muffled hums of refrigeration, nothing out of place, except the other customers. They stood frozen like statues, thick layers of dust covering their clothes and hair, as though they'd been trapped there for decades. A mother with her child, a man clutching a coffee cup, a teenager mid-step, all caught in a snapshot of suspended time. I felt the hairs on my neck rise. "Sarah, look!" Her eyes widened as she saw the figures too. "Is this a joke?" Lily whispered. "No," I said, voice steady but heart pounding. "Something's very wrong." Panic pressed harder. We rushed to the glass doors, desperate to escape. My fists crashed against the window beside the door, a shop window, but it was as solid as the walls. No cracking, no shattering. Then, from outside, I saw it. Our minivan parked beside the pump, but also another minivan almost identical, with windows tinted dark. Inside sat another version of my family. The oddest part? They were laughing long and loud while staring back at us. The other me smiled, wide and cruel. The other Sarah's eyes gleamed with a coldness I hadn't seen in years. Lily and Noah's faces twisted into grotesque versions of themselves as they laughed uncontrollably, mocking us with a silent, terrifying madness. "Don't look away," I told myself, unable to stop staring. The dusty, frozen customers began to stir, slow, jerky movements as they reached toward us, their skin flaking like ancient paper. Their eyes were lifeless, void of anything human, but they whispered, or maybe hissed, in a voice that tickled and muttered just beyond hearing. Fear took over. I grabbed a metal display shelf and swung it at the glass, hoping to break it. Impact after impact, but the glass held firm, impenetrable. The clerk moved closer, slower now, his mechanical pupils locking onto mine. His face twitched upwards, an awful mockery of a smile. The static hum of the store lights buzzed in my ears. Time felt heavy. We were trapped in some nightmare that had no waking, and then I realized we were no longer the visitors. We were the ones frozen outside, the ones laughing in the dark minivan, the ones trapped in that endless loop of forgotten souls, waiting for the next family to walk in and step into our place. The doors never opened. The clock never moved. The gas station was a cage, and the laugh, it echoed forever. I don't know how long we stayed there, maybe minutes, maybe years. But somewhere inside that store, I lost myself. If you ever find yourself at a small 24-hour gas station late at night, watch the doors, watch the clerk's eyes. And whatever you do, don't get caught laughing outside. Story 2. It was past midnight when Jenna and I pulled into that gas station on the edge of the city. The kind of place that feels abandoned, but never quite lets you leave. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick and heavy like the night itself was holding its breath. The fluorescent lights above the pumps flickered erratically as we stepped out of the car. Jenna said she wanted to use the restroom while I got the fuel and paid inside. I nodded, comforted by the dull hum of normal life. But inside the cramped restroom, something was off. The mirrors on the wall didn't reflect us properly. I watched Jenna's reflection lag behind her real movements by a second, or maybe two. Then, the strangest thing happened. Her reflection smirked, not mimicking her face, but a slow, cruel smile that didn't match her. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes. When I looked again, the mirrors were normal. Telling myself it was just my imagination, I heard a low crackle outside. I finished up and headed back to the convenience store. The clerk behind the counter was pale and silent, eyes empty as if staring through me. I paid for the fuel in silence and stepped briskly for the door. Then, my heart stopped. By the car, there were two Jennas. One sat in the passenger seat, her face peaceful and real. The other walked slowly from the store, her lips moving in a whisper I couldn't catch. Her eyes were urgent and wild. I stood frozen, unsure which was mine, until they both called my name together. Mark. The sound wasn't just strange, it was perfect harmony, like twins singing some eerie lullaby with voices that weren't quite human. The Jenna outside stepped closer, face twisted in warning. Don't trust her. Her voice was desperate but controlled. The Jenna inside smiled softly, shaking her head. She's lying. Let me help you. My mind screamed for a choice I wasn't ready for. I took a step back. The two Jennas mirrored me perfectly, synchronized to every breath. Then their voices rose in unison. Mark. The parking lot lights flickered wildly. I heard the steady humming of the gas pumps faltering, like the night itself was pulsing. I gritted my teeth and ran toward the store. It slammed shut behind me. The fluorescent lights went out. I was plunged into darkness. My hands fumbled along the wall as distant whispers rose all around me. I heard footsteps in time with a strange heartbeat sound, growing closer, circling. When the power finally returned, the store was empty. No clerk, no double Jennas. Only my reflection stared back, as if the mirror itself had swallowed the nightmare and kept it inside. I never went back to that gas station, but sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear two voices, calling my name in perfect unison. And I wonder if one was real, or if it was all just a reflection waiting to be set free. Story 3. I thought the road trip with my son, Josh, would be normal. Just a quick fuel stop and back on the city streets before the night swallowed us again. But nothing about that gas station after midnight felt normal. We pulled into a crowded station the size of a small mall, its fluorescent lights buzzing weakly. People moved inside and outside, filling their tanks or grabbing snacks for the long rides ahead. I started pumping gas while Josh stayed in the car, scrolling on his phone. The radio was off when suddenly it clicked on by itself, crackling with static. At first, it was just noise, white noise. But then faint whispering voices came through, pleading, begging for help. I could barely understand. I shook it off. Maybe interference, I told myself. Inside, I ordered a drink while noticing the station's intercom speakers crackling alive. Distorted voices, warped and broken, spilled out in desperation. Help us! Someone! Please! The clerk looked up sharply. Those speakers haven't worked for years, he said flatly, rubbing the counter. I frowned. But we just heard those voices coming from the speakers. He shook his head, avoiding my eyes. No one's seen them work in a long time. Back at the car, Josh and I exchanged uneasy glances. The radio switched off, but the static hissed louder now, filling the interior like more than just sound. At some point, we realized the whispers were calling our names. Mom. Josh. We spun around. The backseat was empty. Panic set in. The voices came again, soft, pleading, echoed over the static, right from the car speakers, even though the radio was off. It felt like the car itself was haunted, alive with cries that should not be. I tried to start the engine and drive. The static didn't stop. The voices whispered louder, closer, vicious and desperate. What do they want? Josh asked, eyes wide with fright. I don't know, I admitted. but we need to get out of here. As we pulled away, the gas station disappeared in the rearview mirror amid fog and flickering lights. Yet the voices remained, echoing from the back seat and crackling from speakers that had no power. The city streets outside grew cold and unfamiliar. Time twisted. The radio static shaped itself into names, warnings. I kept driving, unsure if the gas station ever really existed or if we'd been pulled into some terrible trap alive with the lost. Voices stuck in the white noise, screaming to be heard, but never saved. Sometimes, late at night, I swear I still hear the static whispering from the speakers. And I can't help but wonder who or what is trapped inside that endless hiss. Story 4. We were driving late one night, tired but eager to get home. The city's skyline glittered in the distance, a distant promise that normal life was just ahead. When the gas light blinked on my dashboard, I told my wife Emily we should stop at Wright's Gas and Go, the same place we'd pulled into dozens of times before. Familiar. Easy. The station's blue neon sign buzzed weakly as we pulled up beside Pump 6. The cracked concrete reflected the tired fluorescent lights above. I reached for the nozzle and Emily went inside for coffee. It felt like any other stop. The cold bite of the night air, the hum of the pumps, the lingering smell of gasoline. I filled the tank, glanced around, and watched Emily exit the store, clutching her cup. We climbed back in the car, and I turned on the GPS to find the fastest way home. The voice said, "Continue straight for 2 miles, then turn left." The city streets were quiet, wet from recent rain. Then the turn came, and another, but every road led right back to Wright's Gas and Go. At first, I thought it was a glitch, so I reset the GPS. It gave me new directions, same result. Back at Pump 6. Emily frowned, uneasy. Maybe a detour? But every route, every shortcut, every minor street looped unfailingly around the same familiar corner. We drove for hours, or what felt like hours, never leaving the gas station's grip. The city skyline outside never changed. Streetlights flickered the same, cars passed by the station in lazy circles like ghosts. The fuel gauge never dipped. The tank kept filling as if the car needed no gas at all. The oddest thing was the store clerk. Each time we tried to ask for help or directions, he was there. Same apron, same pale eyes, robotic movements that never blinked or smiled. He didn't speak, only pointed toward the door or simply stared. Finally, frustrated and scared, I went inside and demanded answers. He moved slowly, sliding a folded receipt across the counter. I unfolded it. Printed clearly in neat black ink were the words, "Welcome home, Pump 6." The paper trembled in my hand, cold as ice. What does it mean?" Emily asked, trembling beside me. He just tilted his head, expression blank. By then, the fluorescent lights began to flicker wildly. Outside, the world seemed to blur, edges melting like wax in heat. We ran outside to find the same minivan idling beside Pump 6, only this time with our reflections not on the glass, but inside. Another Emily, another me, smiling and waving at us like welcoming ghosts trapped forever in a loop. I slammed the door, heart pounding. The clerk stared, unmoving, as if waiting. The receipt in my sleeve burned like a warning. The gas station was no longer a place to stop. It was a trap, and the loop? It was home. Story 5. It was supposed to be just a quick stop. A dash in for gas on a pouring night, nothing more. We'd been on the road for hours, my husband, our daughter Mia, and I, rolling through the city while rain thudded on the windows and streetlights blurred outside. I remember glancing at Tom, his jaw tense as he steered through the dark, and squeezing Mia's hand in the back seat, the way I always do when the world feels too big. We pulled into the first open station we saw. The lights overhead buzzed, puddles filled every crack in the lot, and stacks of snack bags leaned against foggy windows. Tom offered to go in and pay. Mia and I stayed in the car, snacking and talking about her favorite band. Sometimes when it's silent in a car at night, I imagine things lurking just out of sight. That night, the silence finally felt real. Tom should have been gone for 2 minutes, maybe 3. Then it was 5, 10. The rain got heavier, and my heart started to race. I kept looking for his shape in the glass doors of the little store, but saw only warped reflections and bright flickering bulbs. Suddenly, headlights cut through the blur. Another car rolled into Bay 3, just next to ours. Same model, same color, a twin of our van. I frowned, getting the strange feeling I'd seen it before. More minutes passed. When Tom finally came out, he was walking too slowly, scanning the parking lot as if something were wrong. That's when I realized our car was gone. I opened the door into the rain, calling for Mia. Tom sprinted to the van in Bay 3, his footsteps splashing, his voice sharp. He peered in, and his face changed. I rushed to join him, heart pounding. Inside the other van, I saw a face I recognized instantly. Mine. Only this version of me was different. She looked older, worn down, gray streaks in her hair, and a terror in her eyes that I'd never seen in myself. Mia was with her, smaller, hunched up, frightened. I pressed my hand to the glass. The other me shook her head violently and slammed the lock down, desperation twisting her features. I wanted to scream, but only managed a whisper. "Tom, what is this?" Behind us, a shadow stretched long across the lot. A gas station attendant, tall, eyes sunken and dark, moving with robotic grace. Tom tried the van's door, but the attendant stepped closer, dangling our keys on one finger, his mouth curving into a cruel, thin smile. "Don't," the older me mouthed from the other side of the glass, her forehead pressed against cold, rainy window. Mia clung to her, eyes wet, lips trembling. I backed away, numb. Tom reached for the keys, but the attendant's grip tightened. The rain started pounding even harder, drowning out every sound but our ragged breaths. Tom wanted to run, but I couldn't make my legs move. Inside the other van, my older self began to sob, face twisted by fear. The attendant moved in close, looming behind Tom, the keys glinting in the broken neon light. "Is this a dream?" Tom murmured. The attendant whispered, voice thin and cold. "Some people never leave. Some faces never change." He closed the gap so quickly it felt like he stepped through the darkness itself. I tried to call Mia, but the van separated us, glass impenetrable, time frozen, no way to reach her. The attendant turned away, keys still in his hand, rain beading on his gray uniform like sweat. Tom collapsed, hands shaking. I caught one last glimpse of myself inside Bay 3, aged, terrified, desperate to escape. Then the engine revved, and the van pulled out into the darkness, headlights vanishing in the downpour. There was no trace of our real car, no sign of Mia, no sound except the drumming rain and buzzing lights. Now, whenever I close my eyes, I see that older version of me, still locked in Bay 3, unable to get out or get help. The keys are forever just beyond reach, and Mia's small hand presses against glass that never opens. Sometimes I wonder if the real me left that rainy parking lot at all, or if I'm doomed to keep seeing myself through the tinted windows, looking older, more afraid, waiting for someone to save us from a night that never ends. Story 6. It was late at night, a strange hour when the city feels like a ghost drifting through empty streets. My wife, Sarah, and I were on a long drive, tired but eager to stretch our legs and grab some snacks. The gas station looked alive with flickering fluorescent lights and the low buzz of activity, enough to feel like safe ground. I wasn't expecting to find anything unusual. I followed Sarah into the store, nodding at the clerk behind the counter. After paying, my attention was pulled toward a small door marked "Staff Only," from which came a faint electrical hum. Curiosity gnawed at me. I slipped inside. At once, the room opened up into a small monitoring station. Dozens of CCTV screens flickered on, revealing footage from hundreds of gas stations across the city. I watched, mesmerized, as dozens of worlds played out on tiny glowing windows. Most were ordinary: clerks stocking shelves, customers pumping gas, a late-night wanderer buying a drink. Then my eyes caught the screen showing us, in this very station, right now, standing at the counter. The image was sharp, chilling me with its clarity. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the footage began to fast forward. The seconds raced ahead. The light buzzed louder, flickering in my ears. Then horror. The screen showed us collapsing on the cold floor. Our faces turned pale, eyes wide open and unmoving. The nightmare looped over and over, replaying seconds of helplessness. I turned to leave, panic squeezing my throat, but the lights violently flickered and died. Darkness swallowed the room. Behind me, the heavy click of a door shutting sealed me inside. The hum of electricity was gone. Silence crept in, thick and suffocating. I pulled on the handle. The door was locked. I pounded, shouted, but no sound escaped. I was alone. I sat trembling in the darkness, the faces on the broken monitors haunting my mind. Outside somewhere, Sarah was alone, and I feared the same darkness would swallow her whole. Trapped in this shadow world, I wondered, would I ever leave? Or was I just one more ghost to be watched endlessly on cold screens, rewinding forever in the flicker of broken light? For more stories like this, share and subscribe Goofy Horror.